All right. Well, thank you guys for hopping on tonight on our Monday night call. Since we have been kind of talking about wanting to get the dream teams going and growing our sponsoring in terms of consultants and adding people to all of our teams. When I was talking to Kathy last week, she told me about a podcast that she found. And of course, I love podcasts, so I I was intrigued, and now I've been trying to catch up because there's about 5 years at least, I think 5 years of podcast
Yeah.
we've been missing out on from this feller. But I asked her if she would hop on tonight to talk to you guys about some of the things that she shared with me about this podcast, because I think that it's relevant to where we're at in our business, and maybe some of the things you've heard from me before in the past. And sometimes it just takes your virtual upline, meaning the guy, that's the name of the guy's podcast, to hear it from somebody else before you're like, oh, okay, I think I've heard that before, but that makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Miss Kathy.
Okay. I'm super excited to share this with you tonight. Had a little bit of a crazy day, a little crazy weekend, but I did get a shower and finally the water's on at the house. Okay. So as Rhiannon mentioned, Bob Hegel, I'm terrible with pronunciation on names. Okay, so I'll put the link in the comment, like when you attach this. So his podcast is called Your Virtual Upline. And he does literally have, I think now it's 6 years. The first one was October of 2015. And I'm going to kind of bounce and forth between his number 3 and his number 4, because it's really struck me. Number 3 is titled Cold Market Recruiting, and he had 5 tips just about overcoming fear. And he has kind of a different network marketing than we do as far as a product. It seems like it's a little bit more of a service. He never mentioned what it is. Maybe he does later, but so I'm just going to kind of dive right in here. I got my notes down here to keep me on track. We'll see if that works. So the number one reason why we want to talk to people, why we go out and do presentations, is because we want to turn people into our customers or our business builders. And sometimes we turn our customers into our team. So the tips that he's giving us kind of talks about just really basic stuff. Number 1, just be yourself. So if you're not the hey girl text, don't send a hey girl text, because that's what everyone in your upline is doing, or your sideline. It just talks about being yourself and embracing being uncomfortable. That's like the most important thing. There was a line in here. He's pretty straight up. One of his lines was, if you're a shy person, you have a really hard time doing this kind of stuff, how much are you going to let your shyness hold back on your income, on your future, and on your plan? Like, if you have a vision and being shy is in the way, how much are you going to let that cost you? So for myself personally, like, I have a really hard time with the 100-person list and like going through. But what struck me about his podcast was, just yourself. He's like, if you're funny, be funny. If you're sarcastic, be sarcastic, because that's what people expect. And even though, he's like, you have that one friend. Everybody has that one friend they follow on social media that has literally done everything. Rhiannon and I know a person like that. They've literally sold and they bounced through. And all the times that she does that, if she just be who she is, and she's selling herself and not the product. That's the thing. That's the key, you guys. When somebody buys from you, it's not because they know anything about Arbonne. They know something about you. They like you. So if you're not yourself, how can you share what you have? And that's just being genuine, because you make recommendations about where to go to dinner, where to get your hair, where to get your nails done. So you sell those things because of who you are, not because of the product. So keep in mind, that's so big. That's your posture. It's so important to show up as yourself and to show up genuinely. So, he says, stop being weird. Like if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're just in your mind, you're rolling through, how do I bring up on? How do I bring up Arbonne? He's like, stop, just stop. He's like, try to just listen. He's like, listen more than talk and be genuine. So I really love that. He said, stop trying to pitch people and close and just close them on the first time. So instead of Rhiannon and I go to a basketball game, we've never seen each other, met each other, we're having a great conversation. So instead of saying, hey, you know what, Rhiannon and I sell Arbonne and I really want you to be on my team and I think you'd be amazing, just try to say, hey, you know what, we had a really good conversation and I was just wondering if we could connect on Facebook. You're not asking for her phone number. You're not being weird. It's genuine. Because people don't care what you know until know that you care. So if you care about what they have to say and you're listening to what they have to say, then they're more likely to listen when you ask them, hey, I have this presentation, I'm trying to practice, you want to just help me out and listen to it. It's just kind of like those kinds of things. If you're worried about what and the where and the how of your pitch, you're not going to make the genuine connections, which is what this business is really about. So, and just be consistent. Don't be weird. He says, be real, smile. And he had some amazing tips on social media, and that was from 2015. So I can't wait to get to the current. He had some amazing tools and tips. But one of the things that really struck me about his number 4, which is how to become a great presenter and conquer your fear about public speaking, was your personal story. Okay, so when we do these Facebook Lives, we don't really get to share our personal stories because we never really fine-tuned them. He said, your personal story, you should know it like hi, my name is Kathy and I'm a Arbonne independent consultant. He's like, it should be just natural. And sometimes if people are around you who've heard it before, they should almost be able to pitch it for you. So your personal story, he gave some great tips. But you're going to need to be a good presenter and fine tune those kinds of things. And how you achieve that is, number 1, write it down, write your story out. And number 2, record yourself. You really need to listen to the ums or the how you're saying things, how you're putting that tone on what you're asking and what you're for. So the big thing that really struck me about this was you need to be relatable. So people, the more times that someone says, oh, me too, they're in. Because if they feel like they can do it, or, oh yeah, I feel that same way, you're drawing them in. So that's the point of your, okay? So, and then you have to get excited about when you're in your presentation. We've talked about this for a long time. Be excited, be enthusiastic. And this was another thing. You're either going to sell, or they're going to sell you. You're either going to sell them on you or your business or their product, or they're going to sell you on how they can't do the business. So you're relatable and you bring things to the surface that maybe everybody kind of feels. They have more, they'll buy. Okay, so these were the tips for your story. You have to learn how to tell a story in a way that makes you relatable. You start with your why, because in order for someone to buy in, they need to know, like, and trust you. That's why you need to have a really good story, and that's all together. So if I'm gonna do my story, let me flip it back here because I wrote it for Rhiannon. You share your background. So I'm not going to talk about their background because it's a little less relatable. So my name's Kathy, and 20 years I worked in management. I was a big manager, and one of the things I didn't like about my job was I had really no control over my hours, and my time that I got to spend with my family wasn't really my own. I had a schedule I followed. And one of the other things that I didn't like about my job was I was making money for someone else. And my paycheck was the same no matter what kind of amazing week or sales that I produced for them. So what Arbonne has done for me allowed me to have the flexibility to be at home, to earn an income. I have the opportunity to earn over $3,000 a month, and that's just what I can do. And they have an amazing compensation plan, and they have great product that they sell, and I'm stand behind it. Okay, so back. So then the last part of my story, I would share your experience could be your health journey, a weight loss journey, or your success. And if you don't have that success story to share, like a financial one, you would just say, like I said, I have the opportunity to earn up to, and you're sharing why and how Arbonne can change your life. But then you're also going to say that last little vision. I see myself earning an amazing income, and I see myself having an additional retirement home, or putting cash for my kids' college. So you have to fine tune it, because your entire story needs to be 30 to 45 seconds. And the reason is because if it's 4 to 5 minutes, you're losing people. Attention spans are so short now. They really are. But so the key, short, relatable things. You have to bring in things that you didn't like about your past life, and then you have to reverse that and show how Arbonne has what you like about it. So you can say different things you like, but it's kind of nice to tie together, like, okay, so I didn't like my time skill, so I love that I have flexibility, and I didn't like that I had a paycheck, but I have the opportunity to earn, on my performance, I get paid on how hard I work. So just kind of little tips there. And the biggest thing that I want to share with you guys about this podcast that really, it's always been out there. Rhiannon's always talked about it. Deanna Herron's talked about it. Almost a lot of presenters, they talk about it. Tanda Cook talks about it, is a third party validation. So if you're trying to hook somebody, you can't hook somebody with your own story. You can't sell that. So a third party tool is anything but you. It's a 3-way call. It's a PowerPoint presentation. It's a Facebook Live link to Becky's opportunity. It's a 30-day to healthy living from Tanda Cook. Those things, in order to develop that trust and relatability, should not come from you. They make it more effective if they come from someone else. So 3-way calls couldn't be a better time. The other thing that's really important when you're in your story, and if you're doing a presentation, it needs to be easy. And his exact quote was, "It doesn't matter what works, it only matters what can be duplicated." Because they need to sit there and they need to say, "Oh, I can do this. Sign me up." So you're giving a super complicated presentation. They're like, ooh, that was a lot of data. That was a lot of this, a lot of that. So just remember, duplicity equals simplicity when you're trying to hook that. So prospects should always be thinking, I can do this. And I thought these 3 things were interesting. So in a presentation or a conversation or a coffee chat, you should educate them. You should understand. They need to understand what you do, and then you need to inspire them with your story. So I thought those were 3 nice things: to educate them on what you do, to understand to educate them on products or what you do, depending on where you're going, understanding what you're doing, and then inspire them with your story. You transfer belief through your enthusiasm and through your presentation. And one of the things that I thought was brilliant as well in the presentation, so like on our Facebook Live, we say they're 15-minute parties. So we're like just bam, 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 hitting them with all these bundles. We never take the time to handle the objections like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't know if I have enough money. Don't tell our story. All three of those are just really big on, being relatability and questions, because we don't have that time like we in person. When our presentation ended, we would mingle with people or we would have a question answer. We don't have that with Facebook Live. So I think it would be nice if we could just win a little bit of, hey, if you think this takes a lot of time, we have tools that are in place, make it easy. And so you start to hand some of the objections before they even come up. And he said, if you have an hour-long presentation, do your presentation in 20 minutes and use the rest of the time to either sell to them or hook them or enroll them and even start training them. And just remember, your prospects are always thinking, can I do this? So if you make yourself relatable, they know they can. Those are my huge tips from just, my 4 or 5 podcasts that I listen to.
Thank you, Kathy. I love it. I listened to, I think I listened to 3 and 4 on Thursday or Friday. And when he talks about going out into public and talking to people, I was like super focused on that. And I went into a store, I started talking to this gal, and I was like, in my head, I was like, don't be weird, like just have a conversation. But I'm thinking, I ended up giving her my number because she works there. And I was like, I want these exercises anyways. But now I have her cell phone number because she texted me today. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to be weird, but like, I'm going to make those steps to build that relationship so that eventually I can have that conversation. And I did love the way that he worded things on how to have that conversation and how to bring it up. And I've heard this before, like when you're out and about and you're with, maybe you have an excellent waitress or somebody at Starbucks who just goes above and beyond in customer service, have a conversation, say, oh my gosh, you are amazing at what you do. You must love working here. You must love your job. And a lot of times when you say something like that to somebody, they're going to be like, no, because turns out not hardly anybody loves their job. And so you're able to get the truth from them right away. And so then when you do say, hey, you know what, let's connect on Facebook. Are you on Facebook? Let me find you. Become friends, and then continue to build that relationship so that then you could say, hey, you mentioned that you didn't love your job, and I'm always looking for super helpful people to join my business. If I set up a call with you can call them regional vice president, whatever you want to call it, would you be open to hearing more about this business opportunity? If it's not a fit for you, no big deal. Maybe it's somebody that you know would be interested in that. And let them, of course, answer from there. But using their own, and I've said this before, and I like to do this myself, using their own reason why to ask them to take a look at the business. It's like, well, you told me you don't love your job. I'm just offering you something else that you could potentially do. And then it's up to you to say yay or nay. And another example that he talked about, well, he talked about using LinkedIn and how he's done really well with that. Again, this was 5 or 6 years ago. So I don't know what LinkedIn's like now. I've never been able to really get in the groove on that platform. But he said that the conversations that he has with people in his field that he used to be in before network marketing, he talks about how he's like, he'll say something to the effect of, I'm always looking for super skilled professional people, and because they're going to know people who would work well in my business. So he's not even asking them to take a look at the opportunity. He's asking them to set up a call to hear more about it so that they might know somebody else. And so he's completely taken the ask out of asking that person, if that makes sense. And I feel like that takes a lot of pressure off of you, because you're like, they're not saying no because I asked them to join my team. I just asked them if they would get the information. So in case they know somebody else who then maybe would be interested in joining my team. So we had a lot of fun tidbits like that. But like Kathy said, she'll post that podcast so that we can listen to it. I know social media changes so quickly that there are going to be things that are going to be outdated from 5-6 years ago. But I think the general idea of what he's talking about in spending more time selling yourself versus selling the products and just posting pictures of our fizz sticks or whatever, let people see how the business has worked through you and what it's done for you, and be relatable, like Kathy talked about. So thank you very much, Kathy, for hopping on and talking to us about that and sharing this podcast with me. I'm grateful for that. And I will let you guys go and see you in about 40 minutes with Becky.